just open this guy up, and he's pretty cool, but I will say he reminds me of dried pasta. And I'm talking about the quality of the plastic, because it's really tight and really thin, so it's like really brittle. See, look how I don't know if you can appreciate how thin his arms are. They're like noodles. So I really like the sculpt in the sense that he looks really cool. Like that headpiece just looks amazing. I wish they painted that in blue, and I wish the blue was a bit different. But yeah, and kind of if you look at him, he just looks like a noodle, doesn't he? From certain angles, he just looks like a really thin tube with like limbs. He looks really lanky and funny. Or in person he does, like from certain angles like that maybe. It just looks a bit odd. But yeah, I guess the original toy was kind of like that too. You know, the plastic feels kind of similar. Maybe it was a bit thicker, but it certainly felt like it might break just like this. But in terms of things I find really satisfying about this toy is we finally get a reasonably priced Cheetor that you can do the accurate legs with, like that. That is just that is goals right there. That is so cool. You know, you can kind of tell they had to compromise. I think these shoulder pieces should be up a bit higher. You should be able to like move it up, and maybe even invert it just a little. But like that's really cool. And you know, this is the other part. And yeah, it's not as bad in person, but you can see like his feet are tiny. They're absolutely tiny in proportion to his body, and these jut out like anything. So if they could just collapse a bit more, that would be awesome. Yeah, I'm gonna have a play around with him and then I'll transform him. Also, this is him with his weapon, his whip, that is modded off the Transmetal Cheetor's weapon. But yeah, look at this arm, look how thin it is. Like that just does not look right at all. His arm is gonna snap. It's hilarious. But what also is hilarious is the fact that you can, when you move his head up, his magnificently sculpted head, when you move it up, it looks like he's wearing a skivvy or a turtleneck or something. I think that's great. Anyway, when I went to take the head out, it's no wonder this little thing broke. It didn't have a chance, as I said before, past the noodle. But yeah, as you can see, like the mouth goes in here, and then this, it's a bit hard to see the light, but that goes underneath that. That thing goes underneath that blue thing, or that yellow thing underneath the blue thing. So yeah, and it made a sound, and of course it was going to break. It's so hard to get out, but I think there's not much you can do for that. Okay, and upon transformation, he looks really satisfying in his cheetah mode, and his limbs are very well articulated, which is like awesome, you know. So it's like, it really is an upgrade in that respect to his original 98 toy, or whatever that first Beast Wars Cheetor toy was made. And you can really see they were trying to get the body of the cheetah quite streamlined, and so that's why the arm pieces are so thin, probably. I just wish that that didn't mean they had to skimp out on the quality of the plastic. As soon as I tried to put this, you notice that bit there is missing. As soon as I tried to push it into that joint where you can see it's supposed to go into, it went flying across the room. It went flying that way, never to be seen again, but it was a necessary sacrifice, you could say. Yeah, as I said, the limbs very well articulated. The helm, not so much. Tail, not so much, but that's totally fine. You can open out his mouth. That's kind of cool. So yeah, what I really like about these toys, the Transformers these days, coming out in 2021, is they may not be entirely 100% accurate to the cartoon or to the previous toy, but what they are is a great homage to previous iterations. Like, if they're going for like embodying the character, I think they do a really good job of making really fun toys. So yeah, that's Cheetor, who, he's definitely not perfect, but he is really satisfying to play with, I think. In and of himself, there might be better Kingdom toys. I'm not saying there aren't, but if you just got a Cheetor and you know didn't know about any of the others, I think you'd be pretty chuffed. So I'm in Burnie, Tasmania, and today I went supermarket shopping, and there's a Kmart just next to the Coles, and so I just went to have a look, and I actually found all of the deluxes, the Wave 1 of the Studio Series 86 and the Kingdom figures, and I kind of went crazy and bought them all for $29 each Australian. So yeah, those are the only three I've opened. I've still got these two and Warpath to open, and yeah, it's really been a blast from the past. If I just get these two out, I'll show you what I mean. So Blurr was the first one I opened. I think from certain angles he looks amazing. I think what I really like about him is just, you know, the colour. You know, initially when I saw videos of him, the white was like the contrast was just too much, and it was just overbearing, the amount of white, and it was so annoying. But in hand, it looks fine, so he just doesn't take a good photo. And also, you know, from certain sides, like the arms look ridiculous. They look okay on the front, and I've been tempted to take them off, but you have to take off his hand. So, like, if you can just imagine he had a hand there, like, that would just be awesome. Like, look at his profile. So it would look like this instead of looking like this, which just looks like he's, I don't know, skiing or something. That's kind of funny. I'm hoping they'll do an upgrade kit and fix that. And also, if they did an upgrade kit, the other thing I would want them to fix is his head, because I think they're the two things letting this figure down. But honestly, he's such a fun figure as it is. you know, no figure is perfect, and, you know, if I think back to those G1 original toys, you know, we've come so far from that, and they weren't perfect, but they were still really fun to play and mess around with. But I'll go into what I think is wrong with the head. So, I mean, obviously, I think his face just looks too long. His chin is obnoxiously huge, and possibly the white, just the white face. Maybe if they made the blue less thick and like made his face a bit wider and square, then it would look better. But I don't know exactly what it is, but there's something wrong about his face. And in terms of articulation, you know, it's cool. A lot of people are happy with the light piping. The fact that you can shine a light and his eyes will light up through the back. But if that comes at a cost of articulation, you know, I just don't think it's worth it. See, you can move his head that far back and that far forward, that far to the side and that far to the side. So he really doesn't have a huge range of articulation. It's cool. He can do that. He can do that. But I'll tell you, if he could move his head up and so his gaze would be pointing upwards like that, then that would be amazing. But I'll tell you what's stopping that. It's this light piping head. See if I can focus. I really think that is letting it down. You can't move it back. If he could just articulate his head from his neck and not just, they weren't, you know, they're clearly the same piece, I think that would be amazing. But in all honesty, transforming this guy, both modes, he's really fun to play with. Yeah, and he's got cool accessories. So I think if they did an upgrade kit, that would be really super. But even as he is, you know, he's not perfect, but he's still, you know, from certain angles, he looks absolutely amazing, and I think that's good enough. He is super fun to play with. You know, he's got all the articulation that you'd want from, and that has come to be expected from the Studio Series line of figures and the Earthrise kind of War for Cybertron, those lines of figures. Now, similarly can be said with Cup. Now, so this Cup is, he might not look at it first glance, but he is a really cool figure. He's like, I think he will age well. And I say that for a number of reasons. Things I really like is just like the feel of his shoulders and his legs. His legs are just awesome. The color is on point. I like his little backpack, and they're about there. And his playability. He's very playable. Like this gimmick, I know it seems stupid, and you're like, oh well, I don't want my cup to be loose. I don't want to lose something, and I don't want it to fall off easily. And the fact that all his limbs do that might be a bit concerning. You might worry about that at first. But it really does add to the playability. Another thing is the soft ratchets. That is really appreciated. I don't know, it's just really cool for a toy to have that. And you know, the fact that he can bend that much is just, it's ideal. So that's awesome. Now, you can probably see that I haven't, you know, clipped these in, and that's intentional. They can clip in, that's fine. And just the issue I have, no, I'll also mention this is not intentional. These just can't clip in. They won't stay clipped in. Okay, but one of the things I dislike about this figure is you look at him from certain angles and the proportions are not right. So for example, his body is too thin and too flat. It should be more square. And as you can see, like anatomically, his shoulders are way too low, or his head is too high. So by doing this, I know it doesn't fix it, but it just seems a little bit more right by like raising the shoulders. It raises the shoulders. It just makes him look a bit more square, I think. So I know it's kind of annoying, frustrating having it not fully tabbed in, especially if you're OCD. But just for that nuance, I think sometimes I'll have it not plugged in properly. Because if you can just imagine those gaps are filled in, use your imagination, you're playing with toys, that's what you do, then yeah. But yeah, from certain angles, he really does look like Cup. I know we can talk about the face, things that are wrong with the face. Again, just like Blurr, his face is too long, and the articulation, that is just not good enough. That's just really disappointing. If he could move his head up and his body would stay still, or his neck would stay still, that would be perfect. But his head articulation is not the best. We know that these toys, or toys these days, are capable of, they have set such a better standard. But yeah, from certain angles, he definitely does look like Cup, and I know this isn't ideally how you want to have your toys, but like from this angle, there's no denying this is Cup. I know that is the stupidest thing to say, but you see those eyes and you're like, I instantly recognize him. And same from like certain sides of his face, like that head is definitely Cup. It's just, and when you see it like that, when I see that angle, I can just imagine that is how Cup looks when Hot Rod is coming to fix him. Cup says, "Oh, fix me." Favorite quote. Yeah, they're just, I think the way this toy was made and the poses that you can get him in, he's really does live up to his title of Sergeant Cup. He really, this toy is a really good homage to that classic toy, that classic character that he is. It might not be 100% accurate with the longness of the face and the proportions of his chest and his upper body. It's not completely right. It's just a little bit off, but he is so cool. He's still so much fun to play with, and you get him into his car mode, and it's just that form is perfect. It just looks so good. If you can transform it correctly, I have a bit of difficulty. But yeah, again, these toys are just, I'm really, really happy with them. They're just filling me with nostalgia, which is crazy. Yeah, they're just super, number one most important thing is their playability. These toys are just off the charts with their playability. So yeah, I really appreciate that. The little gimmicks, the little nods to the movie, with the Barbie Grana with Minibomb, and the colour is just great. So yeah, really enjoying that figure and all of them so far. And as for Warpath, Black Arachnia, and Jazz, I know that I'm going to love those figures. I'm a bit worried about Black Arachnia. She seems like she won't break, just like the Cheetor figure did. But this has been such a stimulating evening opening these toys. It's been such a joy.